In 2003, I was a sixth grade teacher at a private school in Dallas. For spring break each year, all grade levels at our school from 5th to 12th had a school sponsored trip, a different one for each grade. For instance, the 12th graders went to New York City, the fifth graders went camping, and the sixth graders did a tour of Texas. I went on that trip with two other teachers as a chaperone. It was 5 days on a bus from Dallas, southeast to Gonzales, then down to Corpus Christi, back up to San Antonio, and home again. It was actually a really incredible trip. We went to LBJ's ranch. Did you know he owned an amphibious car? We went to an 1800s farm where UT grad students lived year round like it's 1880. We got to see how butter and yarn were made, which was surprisingly fascinating. My favorite stop, though, was Presidio La Bahia in Goliad, Texas. A lot of people remember the Alamo, but they forget that entire phrase, which was, remember the Alamo, remember Goliad. Months before the siege of the Alamo mission in San Antonio, the Mexican army took the Presidio and Goliad. They took it peacefully, sort of, with the promise of letting the rebellion live, but what they did was march them 200 yards away and then gun them all down. If historical sites are interesting to you, Presidio La Bahia is far more engaging than the Alamo because it's not in a city. It was never destroyed in battle. The Alamo, on the other hand, looks nothing like it would have looked when it was in action. And there's no Ripley's Believe It or Not Applebee's combo store across the street from Presidio La Bahia. But for all the fun and education of this grade school tour of Texas, it ended sort of poorly for me. On our last day, we're driving home up I-35 from Austin, and we made one last stop at the Inner Space Caverns in Georgetown, Central Texas. Central Texas has a lot of caverns. Most of them are highly rated on Google, so if that's your thing, I'll bet you'll have a wonderful time at any of them. I had never at that point been on a cavern tour, and I made it about 5 minutes into our first cave when I started hyperventilating. Horrifying to do this as a teacher in front of your students. To Inner Space's credit, a staff member immediately saw and came up to me and guided me out. And I just sat in the lobby for the next 2 hours reading brochures. This is before smartphones. I'm sure Inner Space is a great time, but for me, it was an awakening. It was when I learned that I am claustrophobic as all get out. This is our second deep cave movie, and this week's film, 2014's As Above, So Below, delivers pretty hard on claustrophobic thrills. I don't know if it was a healing experience for me, but I certainly felt something. Hi, Cecil.
Hi, Jeffrey.
What's your favorite historical site in your home state of Tennessee?
In my home state of Tennessee, historical site, home state of Tennessee. Oh, that's a tough one. Tennessee is a little odd. It's historical site. I had a really amazing time my senior year. One of my best friend and I, we road trip down to go to the actual courthouse where the Scopes monkey trial, the sort of where they had the teacher that wanted to teach Darwinism in schools and the good being the buckle of the Bible Belt. Everyone else said, hell no, we don't want that. But my friend, we're reading Inherit the Wind in English class, and we had a really amazing road trip, and we saw like the little tiny museum, and being like 17, 18 years old, we made an awesome road trip out of it.
That sounds really fun, actually. I love stuff like that. I forget to do that in my older age. It's stuff that I was doing a lot more when I was in school, and you go down to see some museum or historical site and you forget to do shit like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, you would never know. It's still the smallest of little towns, but there's something about being in a place of historical significance that gives that story more credibility. Like I always said, when I moved to New York City, the minute New York stopped being confusing was when I started learning about New York City history. And that's when you learned there was a wall on Wall Street to keep out the British.
Yeah.
Things like that all of a sudden the connections start being made in geographical time and historical time.
Yeah. I got fed a TikTok the other night that was, it started with, a guy with a backdrop of New York City behind him. And he was like, here are some streets that many people mispronounce in New York City. And I'm like, oh, interesting. I'm just so curious. And he's like, this is pronounced Housed. And I'm like, no, I'm out. Yeah, no. I got to get past the freshman level course here. I thought I was mispronouncing. Maybe it's Wahlstrasse and not Wall Street. I don't know. I just I want the advanced level course of pronunciation.
Listen, if you can say Spite and Dival, then you're pretty much there.
I can't remember. Spite and Dival means in spite of the devil, I think.
Awesome.
I think it's Dutch for in spite of the devil. This is super metal. Well, let's speaking of metal, let's talk about the opening of this movie. Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so we got to this movie because of urban, check.
Yeah.
The major urban historical site, actually, of the catacombs.
And also a lot of incidental shots, like above ground in Paris. We get to see Notre Dame. We get to see the Seine. Check. Bonsoir.
We also got witchy, which actually witchy is a pretty big catch-all. This didn't feel I guess as above, so below is a
super witchy, man.
It's very witchy, yeah.
Yeah, and I think there is, in my confusion, I kept conflating this movie. There's another like 28 Days Later style zombie movie about a guy trapped in an apartment in Paris, and I think that's what I was thinking of. So
yeah, because a couple months ago, I think we had this on our list. Yeah, we were like, we don't,
right?
More of a zombie film, right? And we heard about it, and rightfully so. And this is not at all a zombie film. Actually, this is like, what if Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, but horror?
I was gonna say, what if National Treasure, but horror?
It's National Treasure. It leans closer to National Treasure. It's in that DaVinci Code National Treasure.
DaVinci Code, yeah. Like, here, let's take this tablet off the wall of a museum after dark and light it afire.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look, there's a message. You think nobody thought to do that? No one. In hundreds of years, no one thought of that. You're the first one. Okay, that's cool.
Well, no one had gotten the keystone yet.
Oh my god!
What was that called? The key, the rose key.
The rose key.
So the other thing I knew this, I just forgotten this about the film, is that it's a found footage film.
Yes.
So it is all done with, the actors all have cameras on them, and like the characters have cameras on them, like literally.
Very documentary style.
Yeah.
Which actually, halfway through this film, that documentary style kind of stuck in my brain a little bit, because when they're crawling through the many levels of hell underneath Paris, I was like, who is editing this footage together?
Well, they do get out, so
sure enough, they get out. So
yeah,
but even that, it was like a tip off to be like, wait, this is very well edited.
Yes.
Are we going to get a title card at the end of the movie when everyone's dead? And it's like, this this camcorder was found floating in the Seine.
Yeah.
No one was ever found. Oh no.
My only I love nitpicking movies, and it doesn't reduce the enjoyment unless it goes too far off the rails. But I was thinking, like, everyone has, so they have one main camera that Benji, our cameraman, has, and then there's also, everyone has like a little pin camera on their headlamp,
like a GoPro.
Now, my question was that automatically transmitting to a hard drive attached to the big camera? Because that's kind of the only camera that survives. So the people who had pin cameras, we would have lost their footage.
Where did their footage go? And also, how do we hear what they're saying, Jeffrey?
I mean, the sound quality on these pin cameras is impeccable.
Amazing, right? It's amazing. It's just funny, the found footage style is so limiting, but also offers, and I think in this is what I call like a fun house or a like roller coaster movie, and it's like, okay, it's like going through a haunted house, and I think that's where movies like this, Haunted House, Hell House LLC, even Noroi has that sort of like, we're going to put you into a very complex, spooky boopy labyrinth, and just see if you can make it out.
Yeah, I mean, as a writer, like the moment you make the choice to write in first person, you understand how limited you are. And so you have to be a lot more precise about your plot, because you can only reveal certain things if you are solely in first person. And it's the same way with found footage movies. You can have first person from multiple viewpoints, But ultimately, you really have to tightly script it like you would tightly engineer a roller coaster, right? You
Yeah.
can't just be like, we'll freelance the second half of this roller coaster ride.
You're like, and then something happens, and then everybody's safe at home.
Yeah, right.
We'll figure that out in a minute.
So our Indiana Jones in this movie is Dr. Scarlet.
Dr. Scarlet.
So this is Scarlet, who's very similar to Indiana Jones, as a matter of fact, because she's an archaeologist. She is like a symbologist. She's knowledgeable in several languages and history and blah blah blah. She's also like very physical in her work, meaning like she's not afraid to get nitty gritty. And just like Dr. Jones, she's got a
whip.
Well, she does not have a whip, but she does have a dad who is in the business.
Oh yes.
And that dad is a key part of the plot in both Last Crusade and in As Above, So Below. And they both are just quick on their feet. They have to solve a lot of puzzles to survive. There's real escape room Paris vibes here.
I love it. It is totally escape room catacombs Paris.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what that would be in French. Sorry.
So we meet Scarlet on a bus she's crossing the border illegally into Iran. And she's got her head covering on and everything like that to try and fit in, but she's like talking quietly into her camcorder being like, listen, they're about to do demolition on these really ancient caves and there's an artifact there I want to see. I'm getting in there. I know that if I get caught, the punishment is being buried up to my neck in sand and having a wall dropped on me. And I'm like, is that Iran? Is that what they do?
That's very specific.
It's very specific. I know we've seen a lot of shit coming out of Saudi Arabia as far as like executions being pretty bold, but I just hadn't seen that for Iran yet. But she that's her mission. She's got to go find an object in Iran, and she meets Reza, who is old friend of her father's. Reza has a passageway in his house that goes into these caves, and my thought was, Scarlet, buddy, pal, why don't you just ask your friend Reza to pop into those caves and take photos of all of the thing that you wanted and then just email them back to you?
I was even thinking, why are you not doing this 24 hours in advance? Like, why are you pushing this to the wire? Because they're like, demolition occurs at sundown and we've got 6 minutes.
She's like, I'll be there at 5.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like when you're like, you have tickets to go on a train and your friend's like, I'm just leaving the house, and you're like, bitch, you should be here right now.
Yeah. Okay, so she gets into this. We can hear the demolition crews inside, and they got like flashlights,
sirens, patrolling, clearing everybody out. Safety protocols, schmafety protocols.
That's right. So she finds a panel of the wall that's like all carved with, I think that's Aramaic, and I don't know, it may not be Aramaic because she's going to use that to interpret the Aramaic. Anyways, whatever. But anyway, she finds carvings on a wall and she's like, wait a minute, I'm going to chisel through this because it's hiding something.
And the dude's freaking out.
Yeah.
And she's like, what? They're going to blow it up anyway.
He's a little bit like, yeah, I'm worried that you're destroying artifacts, but also that they're about to blow the cave up.
Yeah, we're about ready to die here. One sec.
But inside she finds this beautiful, cool looking old bull statue.
Yeah, made of like onyx or something.
Yeah. And it's
huge.
Carved. Yeah, it's huge, life size, and it is carved with all of this lettering all over it. Yeah. And she's just running her camera phone all over it to record that. And Reza's like, Scarlet, I got a fucking family, so can we go?
Yeah. I will say this movie does not spare us on the witchy set pieces, which I'm here for.
Yeah.
Like, it's really cool. Some of the interiors that they build, it does feel very escape room. But if you like escape room shenanigans, this movie delivers.
Yeah. There was, what was the Nickelodeon show of
Legends of the Hidden Temple?
Yeah, Hidden Temple. Yes. This movie is, if you grew up on Legends of the Hidden Temple, have I got a movie for you? You all grown up now, you can handle a few scares.
Here we go.
So, um,
She makes
and
it out
she makes it out, but in
in
the
a cloud
process,
of dust.
yeah, because the explosions go off and she's trying to clear out of there. There's a lot of like camera shaking everywhere and the dust and staticking out. But right before the explosion, she
Yeah.
sees a hanged man in the tunnels. And then
Wearing all
boom,
white.
explosion. Boom, explosion happens. And Reza saves her ass and tells her, "You're looking for Flamel's stone, for the Philosopher's Stone, and
Yeah.
that is a path to madness. Just like your father, anyone who searches for it winds up dead." I'm like, that cuts deep, Reza.
Yeah. And then no one discusses this for the rest of the film.
Not until the end when we have her dealing with the father stuff.
But it's
Right?
like, okay, so we've had her like scanning the camera all over this bull, right?
Yeah.
Record everything, record everything, record everything. The camera also picked up the mysterious figure in the tunnels. Again, this is where like going rogue. You need peer review. Come on. No one was watching this footage but her. And even then, did she see like you're like, okay, great. Bull footage. Amazing. Let's work on that. But also, what the fuck was that? Do you have a story you want to tell me about how you made it out of Iran?
I think that's a great question. Actually, I didn't even think about it in this moment, but it's such a good and obvious question now that I'm thinking of it, which is she's recording all of this and she
Yeah.
sees the thing. And
Yeah.
my thought on for her would have been, you know what? I'm gonna make sure I get all of the stuff from the Rose Key and get that downloaded. But in the process, before I do anything else, let me see who this hanged man was.
I know.
Can I identify? Oh, look, that's my dad's face.
What? What?
But she didn't stop to do that.
You get very big, like all-consuming vibes from Dr. Scarlet.
Boy, do you.
You know, like it doesn't like almost conquistador level of it doesn't matter how many ships, how many men are lost.
Yeah.
As long as we find the Fountain of Youth where the ends justify the means.
Yeah. She's got a real colonizer mentality to her. Just everything is mine. Mine, mine, mine. You do what I say.
Yeah.
You do what I say. She is
especially when we get into like her relationship with George. Oof.
Oh my God.
That was partially uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah, it really was. Okay, so now we get our title card, and then now we are at an interview with Scarlet outside of looks like an archaeological dig or study or something. And Benji is our American, Scarlet is English. Benji is our American cameraman.
All things cameras.
All things cameras. Benji's very good at his job. Maybe probably was not cut out for spelunking.
Yeah.
No.
Although I like Benji as Benji gets the worst of it.
He really does.
Once we get into the caves, he really does. But it was interesting. I talking about scripting and plotting, and I got this impression in found footage films. There's no faffing around the question. You can't dance around it. And I think Benji becomes the mouthpiece for the audience in these, like the interview questions he asks the other members of the team, Scarlet, George, etc. He's like fucking Barbara Walters.
Yeah.
He's like, oh yeah, what was that terrible thing that happened to you? Why you got that burn on your hand? They're like, oh, we don't talk about that. And he's like, yeah, but this is a documentary, so we kind of have to talk about it. No?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah. Well, and he even asked her in this opening interview about, your dad believed archaic symbols on Flamel's tombstone told the location of the Philosopher's Stone. And he's like, but some said he went mad in his later age, and she just kind of like goes quiet. You're like,
and she said, is that because he killed himself?
Oh.
What? And I was like, oh, what? I have a follow-ups.
You're not exploring what was happening with your dad's last few days or maybe years.
Yeah.
She's very much not coping with what happened. And this movie is going to the pretty not flimsy, ham-handed subtext of this is the moral subtext of this movie is like, you got to deal with your past.
Yeah. make peace within and start from there.
Yeah.
Restart from there.
Somehow that ties into as above, so below.
Yes.
I'll work on my thesis
That's it.
intro paragraph soon. But they go to find George. George has I love when we meet characters and when they, there's always in movies, a lot of these movies, like Event Horizon has the chronology. Here's the list of the whole team. Like we just go,
yes,
the demolitions expert, communications specialist,
like Aliens
Kung
too.
Fu.
They're like, okay, you each have your thing. That's what they do. You're the funny one. You're the serious one. You're the one that likes to punch a lot of stuff.
Yeah. We get the Fox Force 5 treatment in a lot of the action movies. George is interesting, though, because when we go to meet George, he has a very interesting thing, which is George likes to break into old churches and then fix their clocks. And I think that's a very funny bit. I think
this is like some Urban X shit.
Yes. Who's our man here? Who's our actor? Ben Feldman, is that his name?
Yeah, he's really good.
He's so good. We know him from Mad Men, or maybe if you never saw Mad Men, you know the Mad Men meme, which is "I don't think about you at all," which is what Don Draper's famous line to him.
Oh shit.
But yeah, this is George, and he is telling Scarlet, whatever you're here for, I want nothing to do with it. Last time I was with you a few years ago, I ended up in a Turkish prison.
And I love it. She's like, you could barely call it a prison, more like a jail. And he's like, I was in a
Turkish jail.
Yeah. But he seems to be, he is her key to speak Aramaic.
Yes.
And you get the impression that they were a partner. They were looking for this thing, sort of stalled out in Turkey.
Yep. And we get a sense that they had a romantic relationship. Because later there's a couple scenes later, he uses his connection to get her into Flamel's house and see his tombstone up close. And she and Benji keep commenting on how pretty the woman is he's talking to.
And so he knows her. He says he knows her from business or intellectual circles or something.
Yeah.
And he gives and he totally gives like an office worthy look up at the camera, like
yeah. He was very Jim in this scene. It's so good. But they she gets him to use his pretty contact to take him over to Flamel's home to be able to like actually go after hours to study the tombstone up close. And she is like looking at using George's help to translate the Aramaic on the rose key. It's like, okay, the symbols mean this, and something about the key is on the back. Maybe it's on the back of the tombstone. Take it off. Oh, there's this phrase about something that you have to put this
eagle's
chemical
wing flies at night.
Yeah,
and points to it's very witchy woo woo.
It's very witchy woo woo. And the Philosopher's Stone, by the way, is a point of myth around alchemy. Right? Yeah. Like alchemists were always searching for the Philosopher's Stone, that it was sort of like perfect. It created perfect energy, right? Like that they wanted to utilize its power to give eternal life, to heal people. It's very much like the Holy Grail in Last Crusade.
But also to make gold out of lead.
That's right.
So there is it's not just like we're looking to cure cancer here.
No, we're looking to get a lot of money and maybe cure some cancers one at a time.
With the idea of like it's energy transfer. It's like the Philosopher's Stone can transfer energy, transform anything into anything.
Yeah.
Although it can't turn a dead person into a live person. We find that out later.
No, once you're dead, you dead. So she uses like there's something about it has so a lot of what they're researching or what she knows about with Flamel and all these writings that they have to do with chemical compounds.
Yeah.
So it has something about combine ammonia and this other thing with lime. And then she uses like Windex and mixes it with something that are just conveniently on a janitor's cart nearby.
Right there. Yeah, just some Windex and some bleach. And sets it on fire, Jeffrey.
Yep. Which reveals a secret message on the back.
Okay, so I guess the ends do justify the means, right? You do whatever the fuck you want, as long as you get the secret code out of it.
I'm gonna try that next time I'm at MoMA. I'm just gonna take a lighter up to some Claude Monet and be like, no. I
Mhm.
think there's something on the back of
No,
this.
no,
Can
no. I
I?
got this. I
I
got
got
this.
this. Do you
I
have
have 4
Windex?
degrees. You're like picking up some Barbara Hepworth sculpture. It's just like, no, no, no. I just need to like look at the base of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Just
went
flip
to
it upside
Texas
down for me.
A&M. It's okay. Yeah.
That's fine. That's fine. I'll wear gloves.
hmm So yeah, there's this phrase that'll come back. The single phrase that's in here that'll come back is winged vulture leads the way with brightest light in darkest day. I like that it so perfectly is structured as an English language rhyme and
I know, right?
couplet,
Even
even
though
though
it would probably be in French or Latin, probably.
or Latin or Aramaic, yeah, or Greek or some shit. So blah 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 blah. There's 7 layers of hell. There's all these other 9 layers of, I don't know. There's layers of hell, and in the writing at the time, they believed that hell was 1,000 something feet below the surface of the earth, or 700 something feet, and
Yeah.
that so they thought halfway down is part of this writing, saying like halfway between heaven
Halfway to
and
hell.
hell, halfway to hell.
Halfway to hell.
So they're like, okay, that's 370.5 feet below Paris. The catacombs, though, don't go below directly Flamel's house, because theoretically, he buried the Philosopher's Stone directly beneath where he would be buried. But 400 years ago, there were these like street collapses in Paris, and one was right above his
Where we
grave,
need
and
to
like
be. Yeah.
that's part of the burial of whatever.
And so if there's street collapsing, then there must be some sort of tunnel underneath it.
Yeah, of course.
Let's go exploring.
Let's go on a tour of the catacombs.
Now listen, I have done this catacomb tour of Paris.
How is it?
It's awesome. I was exceptionally hungover. I was with Symphony Sanders, and so you can imagine I was exceptionally hungover. And our fucking tour left at like 8 o'clock in the morning. So I was having a rough day.
Oh
But
man.
it looks exactly like this film. I mean, it's worth it if you ever go. Like I try to do Paris is one of those things where like any other major city, if you try to do it all in 1 or 2 or 3 days, you're gonna burn yourself out.
Yeah.
But every time I try to do like a big tourist thing, and this was my tourist thing for that trip, absolutely worth it.
Awesome.
Because it's shocking how many bones there are in these tunnels.
That's crazy.
I think they say millions in the movie. I don't know if that's correct, but like 3 to 4 million bodies were put under here.
Yeah, I think they say 6 million bodies are estimated in the movie. They say that. Well, they go on this tour. It's kind of cute because they're kind of laughing about the tour, all the stuff to make it a little bit extra spooky. They've put some phrases above the walls and things like that. But they are commenting. She and George are talking about, wait, so this looking at the maps, like where we need to go is through this. We need to burrow through this wall. Like that's where we have to go. What's that?
Stack, it pans over and it's just like a stack of bones. And I was like, oh, fuck no.
No. And they are talking about like having to get to the off limits parts of the catacombs. And then there's just a rando dude in the corner looking like a Parisian college student, just taking notes, sitting on a rock. And he's
writing
like,
poetry.
He's like, hey, you got to go to blah, blah club and go see Papillon. He knows all about this shit. And they're like, cool, thanks. Tour guide's like, hey, keep up, get up here. And then they turn back and rando dude is gone.
Uh-oh.
Next time we're in Paris, can we go to this club, Cecil? Can we go to this club in Paris?
Yes.
I'll wear my jeans, my topsiders.
You wear your cowboy boots.
Yep.
Wear your Wrangler flannels.
Mm-hmm.
We'll fit right in.
I'll wear my Brooklyn Dodgers baseball cap.
Great, and I'll totally wear like a beret, so everybody knows that I'm local. One of the tricks that this movie relies on, which I love, it's so low tech and so lo-fi, but it works every time, and I think they make very good use of it in this film, is person looks at the camera and is close by, camera moves a little bit, and then that person is impossibly far away.
Oh, interesting.
We get so as they're going into this club, which is like the hottest club in town.
Oh my God.
It's got tuna sandwiches. Infinite regret. And topsiders. No, they go to this hot club, and there's this very striking gaunt woman walking out, and she does this thing where she sees the camera and makes hard eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of turn back to the line, and then she is like halfway down the fucking block.
Yeah.
And then when we finally get into the club, she is like right outside the window where our main characters are, just hard stare. Like,
yeah. This is very much the character who says, you have been marked.
yes.
You don't know it yet.
Yeah.
But you are marked, my friends.
Harbinger.
Yeah.
But not really a harbinger as you've been marked. You totally nailed it.
So they convince Pappy, they find the very handsome Papillon and his friends.
Could you turn down that smile a little bit? Because
for real.
It's just, you have all the correct genes.
Yeah. Can you just wear a baseball cap? I'm tired of seeing your beautiful hair kind of flop down across your brow.
But
he's he's great.
And he is a underground, very urban X. Like, he loves to break into places, and he knows all about the underground. And he's like, what do you think, I'm a tour guide? And she's like, what do you think, I'm a tourist? And I was like, oh, nice.
Yeah.
But I love it. In the middle of this loud ass dance club, she pulls out a map in front of two strangers and is like, we're going treasure hunting. Are you in or are you out?
And he's like, can I have half of the treasure? And she's like, you can have all of the treasure. I just need to know that it's real. And then George is like, he can have half of the treasure.
Yeah. But it's
half is good.
What treasure? What? Because she says treasure. She's like, we're, treasure hunting, like, with that inflection.
Yeah.
And you're like, what happens when you get down there? And it's just like, Aramaic Rosetta Stone shit.
Yeah, when you get down there and it's just Al Capone's vault, like, what's your deal?
I know,
yes.
I thought about the Geraldo Al Capone thing. They're like, welp, that had a whole bunch of dust and dirt.
Yep.
Yeah, if I was Papillon, I'd be like, so I get half of what now?
Yeah, if I'm Papillon, I'm asking for a retainer. Like, if we don't find anything, I just want cash. Here's how much I want in cash to do this.
Yep.
If we find the treasure, it comes out of the cash advance.
Yep.
Well, we meet our team. We've got Papillon, and we've got Benji the cameraman.
Yep.
We've got Scarlett, who we've come to know well, and we've got George, who is like, I'm not going. I don't do caves. And now we also,
again, a very, very loaded, like, I don't do caves. And they're like, what? But they're like, oh, everybody's got a past.
Everybody's got a thing.
You know what I love, Jeffrey? I love it when entire human lives can be like summed up to one fulcrum moment.
Well, you know who has that the best in this movie?
Who?
Is Zed, the climbing expert.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Because we know about Zed that he's a climbing expert.
Uh-huh.
We know that he can do a very brief Robert De Niro impersonation.
Ugh, at best.
And he has a child that he denies exists. That's everything about Zed. I've told you his whole life story.
That's it. That's all we need to know. But but you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
these are all people in their 30s, and it's like there's one moment. It's so prosaic to be like, that moment, when my brother died and I didn't save him, that was the hinging moment. Like your entire life was fulcrumed on that moment.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe some people are like that, but I feel like we are multifaceted.
Yeah.
But this movie has no time for multifacet. This movie there's one way in, there's one way out.
Yes. And it's the plot, the machinations of the plot are, as you've said before, wafer thin.
Wafer thin. Oh, and don't forget Suxi. She's a banshee.
Again, like, poor Susie, because he introduces, Papillon says, here's Zed, the climber, and Susie, the banshee, which I think is a very funny joke for all of us, like, early, what is that? What Susie and the banshee would be like, is that punk? I don't know what that is. Yeah,
I'm bad with music declamations.
But I don't know. I like me a Susie and the Banshees. They're great.
Yeah.
And
but I love it that they call her Suxi.
They do
they're
call her
French.
Suxi.
Because
Yeah.
they're French. Or just being silly.
Poor Suxi does not really have much about her, unfortunately.
No.
Other than, like, he says the Banshee. So I'm like, Chekhov's Scream? Like, are we going to have a moment? Because the one thing I know about Banshees is they like to scream.
Yep, they wail. Nope, she is fodder.
She's total fodder.
Which I think is, what I think this movie is going to hinge on. Who's going, who's not coming out of these catacombs.
Yeah. Well, they get down to, they sneak it. They have a secret way to sneak into the thing. And George is like, I'll walk you to the entrance.
Sure.
But
that makes sense.
He ends up having to go in because at the last possible second, cops come out of nowhere and tackle them.
This is one of the scariest scenes. Like, that cop, that dude was flying at the camera.
Yeah.
And it's kind of our first jump scare.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was shocking. Because they're like, nope, this creepy. We got to go in there. And it's like, bam, 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 bam. And then like Papillon's like throwing smoke bombs and shit. Already, they're not even like 5 steps in, and already this this team it's gone wrong.
Yeah.
It's already gone wrong.
Yeah. Which forces George, who's waffling, to have to like to crawl into this tiny hole to go underground and into this side entrance to the catacombs. So now
I hated these scenes between George and Scarlett. I hated them. I hated watching her bully him.
I did too.
Into doing this.
Talk about that more.
So we have this character George, who is her collaborator, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know his backstory yet. His one single moment hinging back, like you get one penny, and we don't know what his penny is yet, but he's very adamant. He's like, I don't go underground. One, like, it's not a bad idea to have like a lifeline on the outside. I'm just saying. And Papillon makes a point. He's like, oh, you can't be in cell phone range because we're going too far down. But having someone to, I don't know, pull you out in case something goes wrong, not a bad idea. So George is like, makes sense, but it's just the way George is like, no, I'm not doing this. And Scarlett just flatly says, you're doing it. Come on. Like, she all but says, like, in an 80s horror villain way, like, don't be a baby.
Yeah.
Or like calls him a chicken and goes, bark, 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 like in fucking Back to the Future.
Yeah.
It was a bit much.
I had that exact same response. I'm just like, please, I get it. You're hasty. She's very forceful and hasty. Yeah,
she's rush in.
Well, it also comes back up later because one of the things at the end, again, to bring back Last Crusade, only the penitent man will pass.
Yes.
There is a thing where you have to sort of like confess your sins to get out of this cave. And spoiler, we have 3 survivors in this movie, and all 3 of them, their sins were that someone close to them died. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Right. 2 of them are, one is, I have a child and I'm just ignoring the mother and denying I ever had this kid, which is pretty bad. That's a pretty bad one. These other 2 are like, George is like, my brother drowned and I went to go help and I got lost and he drowned. And I'm like, that's not a sin.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's a regret. It's guilt.
But the guilt is what you must get rid of.
And
Papillon's very similar. Papillon's almost exactly the same.
Yeah. His brother died in a car crash.
His brother died, and we understand that's how he got this burn on his arm.
Yeah. And she's feels guilty about, and maybe they don't say sins. It's just something you feel regret over or whatever. But hers was that she didn't take her dad's call the night he ended his life.
He killed. Yes.
Yeah. And she but I'm like, at that moment, I'm like, I think your bigger sin, from what I know about you so far, Scarlett, is you're a bully.
Yeah.
That's actually really bad. Like, dad died, like, but dad was going Machiavellian level of ends justify the means. Dad dying was his own choice, right? Sure.
And
that is his thing, and maybe you could have done something to stop it. We don't know. Yeah. But you could have prevented the death of 3 people in this cave just now. by not being a
Damn.
fucking bully. So
Damn.
anyways, they end up in this cave. We're having to go through tunnels that are like thigh deep full of water.
Mm-hmm.
And already at this point, I'm like, absolutely not.
I was okay because I do have a bit of claustrophobia as well. I was okay with all this. It was when Benji got stuck that I was like, oh, this is so hard. This is so hard. This is so hard for me to watch.
It's so hard. And Edwin Hodge, the actor who plays Benji, he does such a great job being a Scream King in this scene, right? Like
Scream King.
He's not screaming. He's like,
no, it's layers of panic.
Layers of panic. He finds panic so well. And I can imagine they actually put him in a tight space. Now, maybe these are just styrofoam rocks, but and he's also bones. Like the floor that he's on is made of bones.
So, okay. So how do we get there? They're exploring.
Yeah.
And they get to this one door that's sort of bricked in.
Yep.
And they're like, don't go through that door. Don't go that way. That way will lead you straight to the castle.
Yeah, because she's like, this is the most direct route from what I can see. And Papillon is like, that's the bad place.
This is a bad place. And she's like, define bad place.
He's like, the way I want to go is longer, but more I know it. And George is kind of telling her, and so is Zed and Suxi, that they're like, yeah, honestly, this guy knows these tunnels. You should follow him. She's like, we should go in here. And then he says, I had a friend once named Latop, the mole. He used to live in these caves. I met him while exploring the caves. He lived here, and then one day he wanted to go into the hole and find out what was in there. That was 2 years ago. I haven't seen him since.
Now, counterpoint. And this is where like Scarlet, like I'm a like minutely on Scarlet's side, because she's like legend, myth, superstition.
Yep.
Like you kind of have to throw that away if you're going for a tangible goal. However, if your job is legend, myth, and superstition, maybe I'm just saying, maybe there is some warning that should be heeded.
Yeah.
Also, counterpoint, the way that Papillon wants to go is through a tunnel made of bones. That is
basically as wide as a cookbook.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know, right? It's like the size of a raccoon.
Yep.
Raccoon sized, tunneling through bones. But I like this as a, like, I mean, it's really, it's very choose your own adventure. Half the team is like, fuck the bad place. Let's just go with the safe bet. But even the safe bet is like physically grueling and scary as fuck.
Scary as fuck. And also they're marked because they get through. They barely save Benji from this thing. They get as the wall collapses behind him, they pull him through, and they're like, oh shit, the wall's gone now, or the pathway is gone. But then they look over and they see the doorway to the bad cave, and they're like, wait, how are we back at the beginning?
How did we go in a circle? We went straight in one direction.
And Papillon is like, you can see it on his face, like,
impossible.
Impossible.
oh, we're also missing, before they even get there, like moments before they get there, they see some candles in a little antechamber.
Oh, for sure they do. Yeah.
And Papillon's like, oh, don't worry, there's always crazies down here. And I'm like, what?
Weird and peoples, he says.
Weird peoples. And okay, sure. I think, that's to be expected. But when you see the weird peoples, this is next level weird.
Yeah.
This is like Children of the Corn weird. Yeah. Not just your average, like, street people, which are not weird, which are just people. These are all women singing atonal choral music straight out of fucking John Cage playbook.
Half of them have their tits out.
They're
a third of them have
white
heavy
paint.
Eye makeup. Yeah.
It's like white paint, like anybody who, like, all white with like red streaks across their eyes. Dude, that's a cult.
That's not weird
cult.
peoples. That's That's
That's a
scary
death
people.
cult.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. This
Oh,
isn't just like a
and
kirtan at Kripalu. Like this is actually like for real.
These aren't
some crazy shit.
juggalos.
No. Yeah.
Just like, oh, don't mind them. They're just juggalos.
Okay, my favorite. So now they're like, well, we're going into the bad cave.
Hell, here we go.
The other thing was Papillon on the way into the cave to start, he tags the wall. He just writes Pap and draws like a little half circle around it. And then we see his tags early in the cave. But after they get into the bad cave, which he said he would never go in, there's a Pap tag on the wall. And he's like, I promise you, I never put that there.
Turn back. But you can't turn back.
Because, I think they already know.
Well, it's like, well, if they go back, it's the idea that like the entrance is blocked either by cops or a cave-in.
I think the entrance is blocked by the cave-in. I think this is like you're already up the roller coaster.
Yeah. There's only way out is through.
Yeah. So they this is my favorite scene in the whole movie. I think this is such a good, honestly, like not creepy, but disorienting moment. There is a telephone that starts ringing in the distance.
And you can tell it's old school, like Ma Bell telephone.
Oh, it's so good. I love that.
It's great. And Papillon's like, well, the phone company was down here many years ago, and but they removed everything.
Like in the 50s or some shit. Yeah.
Ring. Oh, I love this little bit where, George at one point says, oh, must be where the streets collapsed and hundreds of people died right here. Again, back to the intro of like being in the spot of historical significance.
Yeah.
Illuminates that historical story oftentimes. So he's like, I don't know. I really felt for George. He's like in a very like, here we are at Gettysburg. Imagine that, it's very like, imagine what it was like to see the sights and smell the smells. But Papillon comes up behind him. He's like, yeah, hundreds of people died. And when they sent workers down here, 50 more people disappeared.
Yeah.
In other words, bad place. Just bad place.
Well, Scarlett and George both have moments down here because George sees a piano. He's like, he's like, how did they get a piano down here? He's like, that looks, the one I grew up with.
Oh, that's weird.
The only song my brother and I could play was My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean, but we couldn't ever complete it because the A key was broken. And he starts playing it in the same A key.
Bring back my Bonnie to me. To me.
And then
dude, I'd be like, no, I'm done.
Scarlett answers the phone, which keeps ringing.
Oh my God.
And
it's so spooky. Like, I do like the minimalist aesthetic of this film.
Totally.
Of like, let the undergroundness do the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
And then just put like one or two little, like almost antiques.
Yeah.
Timeless antiques that make no sense.
Yeah.
So it's just like a little antechamber, and there's just like a little table with a phone on it.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do, man.
Yeah. And she hears the voice, and I can presume that in retrospect, after seeing the movie, that this is her dad.
Yeah.
Saying, why won't you talk to me, Scarlett?
And there's like screaming in the background. Jeffrey, how much is a collect call from hell?
I'm gonna guess that's above and beyond your standard carrier charges.
Yeah.
But I have an international plan, so it just if I go overseas, it just charges me $10 a day and then unlimited data and texting.
And actually, who knew hell was just honestly, it's Paris area code.
Yeah, for real. Well, we get a seventh character now in the case because
we find La Taupe. And listen, La Taupe is not doing well.
You don't suppose?
They're like, he has no light. Somebody, I think Scarlett's like, how did he survive down here for 2 years with no light? And I'm like, that is a good question that we should probably be asking him. Yeah. Instead, La Taupe is just saying, you never came to look for me. You never came to look for me. I was like,
dude.
Okay, we need to have a little heart circle.
Yeah.
We're all going to sit down. We're going to express how we're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to ask some questions. Do you need comfort from me, or do you want support? Do you want support, or do you want answers? I can do either, because I can hold your hand or I can help solve things. But like, what do you need, Latope?
Yeah.
Because you're, and also his eyes are entirely black.
Yeah.
Like mole people.
Yeah.
From whatever that fucking the time machine.
But he says, I can tell you want out, and the only way out is down, so let's climb down this tiny hole.
And it's a fucking well that goes down
is.
like 150 feet.
Yep.
Again, nope.
They go rappelling down the well. Benji does the thing I remember from The Descent, which is sliding too fast on the rope and cutting his hands wide open.
This is another good scare because it's like we're with, I can't remember who we're with. George, and he's like kind of stuck in the middle trying to fucking with his harness, and then just like a body comes at the camera, which is so disorienting, creepy, scary, and he's all bloody, and they finally get him down.
Nope.
No, and like Scarlett's like, do we have more bandages? We need to bandage his hand. They're like, we need to go.
yeah. Well,
I will say that this movie does something that is, it happens a few times. The like, hurry, quick, quiet.
Yeah.
You know what's not quiet? You know what's not stealthy? Telling me to be quiet.
Yes.
At full volume.
Yeah. Yeah, they could take a lesson from like John Krasinski in A Quiet Place. It's just a hand held up.
Yeah. I clocked it when they were going, like they're in the van. And I was like, this is kind of silly, but they're in the van and they have to kind of get through a little thing. They're like, okay, if cops find us with this spelunking equipment, we're toast. So what do? They're like, hurry, quick. No, be subtle. Totally be subtle. Look like you're everybody in. Like fucking 6-year-olds into a clubhouse.
Yeah.
As opposed to just being like, we are doing our job. Like, I don't know. There's just moments of that. But it evokes that haunted house feeling in us, the audience, if the people on screen are like,
yeah. Ocean's 8, you folks are not.
Yes.
This is not it at all.
No. Blending in. No.
So they all make it mostly safely, out of that well, and then they're still following Latope, and George is asking Papillon like, hey, like, you know this guy? And he's like, I do, but he's different now. And he's like, should we be following him? And he goes, I don't know. And I'm like, the one dude we chose to follow is like, I am uncertain. ?
He also does the thing of like, he's right here, the light turns away, the light comes back, and he's like 50 yards away.
Yeah, you're right. Well, they end up getting another like ceiling collapse, and they end up in a small room where they're like, we're fucking stuck. And she's like, no, wait, symbols on the wall. It's a Ptolemaic hinge.
Yeah.
Which is a type of riddle, very much like Last Crusade, wherein you have to solve it exactly right in the right order. And if you do, you will be allowed to continue. If not, it is death.
Yep.
And
but they find some markings. They find the vulture. They find a scarab.
And
they start talking about the number of planets before Copernicus.
Yep.
Which correspond to the number of stones.
And they're like, it has to be, they considered before Copernicus, they considered there were 7 planets.
The sun was a planet. The moon was a planet.
The Earth was not a planet. And so they pull
7 stones.
7 stones. Such a good, it's a nice, tense moment because everything starts crumbling when they pull that stone out. There's a moment, by the way, when she and George are running through this so fast, and we never see the look on anyone else's face. But there's a moment where you hear like Papillon's voice or somebody's voice just be like, can y'all slow down? Just take your time.
Like, can you show your work here? Wait. And it's in this moment again, the like, what exactly are you looking for down here?
Yeah. I will say, so one of the things about the direction in this movie that I think drove me crazy is, this is a good example of it. it's Scarlett's whole persona too. It falls into this. This movie doesn't understand giving weight to things. It understands how to
Yeah.
scare you. It understands how to
Yeah.
give you a good visual. It understands great camera work. The acting is very nice. Like nobody's like unbelievable,
Yeah. Yeah.
not
Yeah.
believable or anything. But this moment doesn't have the Last Crusade, let's bring it back to that. When he has to
Sure.
jump across the letters that spell the name of
Yeah. Yeah.
God,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
it really shows when he first steps on J for Jehovah. It crashes through. He's like, oh shit, it would have started with I in
Yeah.
Aramaic or Hebrew or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that movie, which I think was Spielberg directed that,
Yeah. Yeah.
understands the weight of a moment. And later,
Yeah.
when we start seeing people dying, there's no weight given to the deaths. And this movie runs just like Scarlet runs, just full
Yeah.
throttle.
Yeah.
And
Leave
I'm
them
like,
behind.
take your time. Take your time. Like,
They're like, nope, they're dead. Gotta go. Gotta keep moving. But nobody's dead yet. Nobody's dead yet.
well, we get into this room and we find a Knights Templar dead
Oh
on the tomb.
my God. And they're like, he looks really well preserved for being
700 years old. 700 years dead.
Whatever goop skin regimen that Templar Knight is on, sign me up.
He's doing something more than just like the CeraVe hand
Like
facial cleaner.
cryo, like,
yeah,
with those electric masks.
he's got charcoal in that shit or something.
Little
I don't
jade
know.
roller.
This dude looks totally like, and they don't do this, but this dude looks totally like a man that the camera is going to pan back and he's gone.
And I think that's what they're setting. It's like they're setting up. They're like, this person's going to move.
Yeah.
There's just like, it's like a ticking time bomb in the middle of the room.
Yeah.
They pull out their little witchy woo woo riddle, and they're like, all lights out. Oh
yeah, brightest lights in darkest day. And she's like, turn off your headlamps, everyone. And then you can see a small
underneath
light
water
in a pool of water. So we
but
have
you
to
totally
swim.
expect them to turn that shit back on, and that night is like behind somebody.
Yes.
Jeffrey, were you with us? This might have been Joseph. I don't know if you were with us or not. This might have been, no, I think it was just me and Joseph. But we went to an old-fashioned seance in an old house in like in northern Manhattan, like an old house.
Oh.
And it was that feeling.
I'm so shocked that Joseph would have gone to that. I know it wasn't me though.
He was the instigator.
Wow.
And I went with him. It was a blast.
That's awesome.
But it's that feeling of like, there's other people that you're not seeing. You just don't know how or where. And then you're put in complete darkness and just let your imagination do all the work.
Yeah. Absolutely not. So she dives right on into this water. Yep. And is like, pull a stone loose and like swim into, like, full faith to be like, I can swim through a tunnel that I cannot turn around in.
Mm-hmm. That you don't know how long it is.
Nope.
That you don't know where it leads. Doesn't even tie a rope.
No.
I'd be like, okay, here's my guideline. And if I tug on the rope 3 times, you better pull me the fuck back.
Mm-mm. Oh, nope. This made me, God, it makes me so tense just describing this fucking scene. It's so like, oh. But
this gets them there.
Gets them there. Secret room. We've got inside a cage in this room is all kinds of gold, just glowing bright.
Mm-hmm. In a locked iron cage.
Mm-hmm.
Just tantalizing, just looking all tempting and golden and pretty.
Everyone else comes into the room too, and now they're like, holy shit, it's for real. And she is trying to figure out where the Philosopher's Stone is. And she kind of tells this story about the gods of sky and earth being married, and that every morning the sky would give birth to the sun, and at night she would swallow him, that sort of thing. And so it has to do with the meeting of the sky and the earth. And then that's what we see on the mural. Right there is an orb that she tears out of the wall. And that's the fucking Philosopher's Stone.
But in that moment, poor Papillon and Suxi and Zed are tearing into this cage.
And she turns around, she's like, that's a trap. I'm like, could you not have told me when we got in the room not to open it?
I think like rule number one is don't touch anything.
Yeah.
Don't. But listen, there would be no movie if people were scientifically rigorous.
Well, and also, Scarlett, as the leader of this group.
Yeah. As one of two people, one of three people that knows what the fuck you're actually here for.
But everyone's kind of looking to the sort of leader in the moment, to not just guide what are we doing, but also to guide the energy, right? Like, and your energy is grab, do, da. It should come as no surprise that everyone else is like, gold, grab it, let's do it.
Yeah.
That like it's
true.
I've learned this, you've learned this from years of touring too, if tour manager is cranky, everyone else is going to start feeling cranky.
Yeah.
Tour manager is like, I don't know what I'm doing.
The leader. Yeah.
Everyone else is
uplift.
Like, yeah.
What do you need? Do you need me to sit back and be quiet? Great. That's what I'll be doing. Do you need me to find you a Snickers? I can do that too.
And if everyone else is kind of tired from a long road trip, sometimes they can't give you that energy, and you have to, find ways to do it. Whatever. It's basics of leadership, of just being in a group of people that you're having to take around, and her whole vibe is grab.
Yeah. Just keep pressing on. And we're not even in hell yet.
No. Well, the ceiling collapses, and listen, they have lost all their
trap.
It is a trap. There's no more batteries, there's no more food, there's no more first aid, no more water. That all got lost in this whole ordeal.
And they lose Suxi.
Well, she don't die.
Oh, no, that's right.
She gets her arm crushed.
Pinched. Yeah.
One thing that's interesting about this movie, thinking about like a movie like The Descent.
Okay.
The Descent is gory.
Yeah. As all get out. This movie is not gory. There is blood in this movie. But like Susie gets her arm crushed later, we'll get her face crushed later. Yeah.
Benji's going to fall from like 100 feet onto stone and collapse. But it is like old-timey Hollywood blood, because we see their bodies not at all misshapen or broken. Just blood painted on their face.
Yeah.
And that's how her arm is. But she uses the stone to heal Susie's arm, and all the blood is gone.
And she just like it's like pulls off a rock of sea salt.
Yeah.
And just like, I don't know if this is going to work. Presses it into the wound.
Yeah.
And Suxi is like, huh? Just like sits up.
Yeah.
What did you do? Can we eat it?
She just like microplaned it like nutmeg on the top of a cocktail.
You were exactly correct. Yeah. Can we get like some shavings of Philosopher's Stone on here? I want to know, can you eat that shit? What happens if you eat it?
I mean, it's a mineral. Surely
is that the like live forever part of thing? I
think so. Let's put it on our cavatelli and find out.
Summer squash, Philosopher's Stone cavatelli in brown butter.
So they see so now they're trapped in this room, but they see on the ceiling a drawing of a door. And this is where like there's a drawing of a door on the ceiling, but it's not a door, or a carving of a door on the ceiling.
Yeah.
This is where we get as above, so below. And she shows a mural, like a really, really old, I don't even like 1300s, like a 12th, 13th century painting of an as above, so below, kind of like in its vertical symmetry,
Yeah. It's the hexagram. So like Solomon's triangle going up, triangle going down.
Yep. And she explains as above, so below, as on heaven, as on earth. And also like as is within me is without me. It is yin and yang. It is balance. It is nature's balance. It is the balance of the heavens. All of these things, the balance of energy. As above, so below can mean almost anything. As a side note, I want to tell you about a couple months ago, Sarah Griffin was in town, and she was in New York City, and we went to the Met. She hadn't been to the Met before. And
wow.
And it was, in her visits to New York, she just hadn't gotten around. So I was like, great, I hadn't been in 15 years. Let's do it. So we're walking through, and we're at like medieval art and stuff. And there's a full-size, life-size statue of Jesus doing the classic as above, so below. Well, he always has his right hand pointing up with two fingers pressed together. And then his right hand often is done with 1 or 2 fingers pointing downward, palm facing the viewer. But in this one, he was only doing the pinky pointing downward. It was a very interesting thing. And we just got really tickled because it looked like he was doing the 2-handed shocker. And that's all we could think about was
that Jesus kinky as fuck.
That's not as above, so below, sir. That is something else.
Yeah.
But thank you, Christ, for this meal.
Good God, let's see.
Well, so that by the carving of the door on the ceiling, she's like, as above, so below.
So
you can imagine a thing into existence. As it exists in your mind, it can exist in reality, which feels like it's stretching this.
She starts talking about like the atoms inside of her. And I was like, are you going to like phase through that fucking brick wall?
This is a little bit of, she's pushing that metaphor of as above, so below. But the explanation of like atoms or whatever, that's a little bit like midichlorians from Star Wars. Like, I don't need to know how the Force works. It just works.
I know, right? Space
magic.
That's all I need to know. Yeah.
So,
but it does. But I appreciate the door is above, so there must be a door below.
I love it.
Into this puddle of water,
which she reaches in, starts hammering away at, and finds a hole, and it drains all the water out. So again, another well. They keep going deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. We know that from their earlier studies, this point is the halfway point to hell.
Yep.
So I'm like, oh, y'all are all going to hell. That's exactly what's happening.
Now, there's an interesting thing about, I don't know. I thought the filmmakers made a choice, and respectfully, hell is pretty fucking scary. And clearly, when we get into these sort of character arcs of these, what is hell? Hell is regret. That keeps you stoned, chained down. But they talk about like the kingdom of darkness. And I was like, isn't that death? Wouldn't that be death? Like, if you're trying to find something that like conquers death, where does hell come into? I don't know. I was like, I was like, I have questions about your academic conclusions here.
It's alighting a lot of old mythology here.
Sure.
A lot of old religious concepts. And it's also putting in, well, when we get to the bottom of this new pathway, we find kind of the entrance to hell.
All ye who enter here.
Correct. And she also cites biblical verse, a verse from the Torah. I don't know. She's like, and they should be made to crawl on their bellies to enter the kingdom of darkness. I think
that was in their witchy woo woo poem.
Yeah. Okay. That was That was
from their Shakespearean sonnet.
Some kind of text that is ancient. And so now, crawling on your belly through another tiny like little cave thing, you come out on the other end, and they end up back in the identical room as where the treasure and stone were,
except there's no treasure,
no stone, and it is flipped the other way.
Love it.
Perfect.
Love it. If you didn't know you were fucked yet, now
you do.
Now you do. And also, I do like this. This is where some of the cool sound stuff comes in. There's more of that atonal singing. It's almost it reminds me of Hellraiser, like when they go into the hell regions in Hellraiser. This like loud. It's a lot of bass, cello, deep strings, sounding, horns through. It's like pretty cool. Yeah. But again, they don't. Nothing sticks, because all we get is someone being like, we must hurry. And so we just kind of like, we're just on our little haunted hayride through the catacombs of Paris here. Which I was like, listen, I know it's super scary, but like, I know you're documenting all this with video, but like, sights, sounds, smell. Like, I think I would be much more piece by piece. Like, what is this? What is this? What is this? What is this? Where does this go? How do we get out?
Yeah, absolutely. So they swim through to the next room, and it's identical as the Knights Templar tomb room, but in this case, the body is super dead. It is cobwebby and just almost fully skeletal.
And also not wearing a Templar thing. It's like just kind of all black.
You're right.
Or something like that. Yeah. Like it's slight. Again, where were we talking about Oh, on the shorts episode when we talked about variation. No, repetition with slight variation is
Yeah.
like so scary.
Yeah, you're right. In this room, we hear some creepy ass breathing, and they are running out of headlamps. So the light is getting thinner, and somebody's got to point their one headlamp over to the corner, and there's fucking La Taupe.
Just doing heavy breathing exercises like Pina Bausch level, like like he is. I don't think he's with us, but
No,
fucking Suxie's real brave.
she goes up and she's like, La Taupe,
"Hey,
how you
buddy.
doing? Are you, hey, bud?
Hey, buddy. Do you need a Snickers?"
This is probably the scariest jump scare to me in this, because he grabs her and just wails on her, like smashing her. Like, we get quick clips of head smashing into floor.
Yeah.
Again,
It's pretty brutal.
It's really violent, very violent.
But I think the camera work makes it scary, but also takes the sting out of it, because it's so flash and grab. Like, it's so like, what am I even looking at right now? And chaos.
It's funny. It made me think of the deaths in this movie. Made me think of the deaths of the older couple in Midsommar who died from the cliff, because that's the opposite. As above, so below, right? Like, that's the opposite of what this is. This movie is it's letting the cameras do the tension. What the camera shows you doesn't show you the quick clips. And then the actual body, when we get a close-up on her, it's just this actor with goopy red splotted on her face, like she ate Jello too fast. And the bodies of the older couple in Midsommar, we see fully caved in faces. It is
anatomically
correct. And
the camera work is unflinchingly, you like, no, you're gonna look, and you're gonna look longer than you would like to.
The whole thing, it's very slow. It is the whole picture, very Ari Aster, and it's but it's the opposite. Like, the gore in this is almost non-existent, but the violence is still there. She's dead, and so the stone doesn't bring her back to life. We don't have time to mourn poor Suxie. We got to get the fuck out of here. We're gonna keep going.
Like, just pop a little piece off and just put it in her mouth. See what happens.
It's true. It is true. They don't even spend time.
No.
Anyways, whatever. Just Scarlett's in her own world. She's dead.
R.I.P. Suxie.
They must be 1,000 feet down by now. They're going deeper and deeper. And then, oh God, they go down another long well, and poor Benji is the last to come down the ropes. And he hears a baby crying.
The person who has the most trouble with tight spaces, claustrophobia, has burnt his hands in the... That's the person you choose to go last.
No, you choose Zed to go last. He's the climbing expert.
Right.
I don't know.
Like,
anyways,
when I did like a super long, when I was hiking in Africa up Kilimanjaro, like, we had the best guides, and it was like the head guide was in front, the second head guide was in back at all times.
Yeah.
You don't go faster than the lead. You don't go slower than the back.
Nope.
End of story.
The end. Yeah, and they leave him up there, and he hears baby crying, and he again great horror camera technique where you pan to a dark corner, pan over to another dark corner, pan back, pan back, pan back. Screamy face right in front of you.
Face. And it's the woman from the club.
Yeah.
And next thing, you just see Benji's body falling to the ground.
Yeah. And now suddenly Scarlett is so selfish, because she sees Benji's dead body and starts crying. And again, not selfish to cry when a friend of yours dies, but she absolutely is not in a hurry to keep moving after her friend died, because Papillon's friend just died. His good friend just died. And she's like, no, we gotta go. We gotta go. Yeah. Leave her. But now her friend's dead, and she's like, Lo, we need to have a service for him. Like, come on. So now we're getting into the hallucination part, right? So George starts hallucinating his younger brother, Danny, who died from drowning. He
is
hallucinates he's under the bones. I gotta dig for him. And Scarlet has to be like, no. You're all imagining
it's not real.
Papillon sees a car on fire with a young
This is pretty
boy.
dope. This is like some underground Paris street art shit.
It is. Because they're in
like
a 1,000-year-old tunnel. And here's like an 85 Dodge Dart. Just on fire.
And also it's also like on fire. There's no smoke.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks cool.
Yeah.
It's like something that, I don't know, it's very Mad Maxy.
Totally.
Like very, but again, like jarring dream imagery of like simple tunnels, and then put just like one evocative image and let that do the heavy lifting.
This is one of our few like pretty strong CGI moments here, which is Pap starts getting dragged from this car, from this hand, the boy in the car, and he's trying to get away, but he gets dragged into the flaming car, and the car just becomes a singularity and disappears. But what is left is just Pap's legs from the shin down, sticking upside down out of the stone.
He's been buried upside down.
Yeah.
And they spend no time getting him out.
They kind of do a couple of tugs, like, never mind, we got to keep going. Come on, Zed.
I was like, R.I.P. Pap.
It just drove me crazy that I was like, Scarlet, you are so selfish. It's just, it's so self-centered. So
now we get to the haunted house.
Yeah, we're getting to a really haunted place here because we start seeing faces like carved into the walls
that are breathing.
Yeah. And we see Cloak Man.
Oh.
In white face and a black cloak with a pointy black hat.
Nothing weirder.
Nope.
Nothing scarier. Just sitting in a chair.
He's just a ghoul wearing his Sunday best.
Yeah. That's it. Just a Duke of Hell trying to do his fucking job. Before these living mortals wander in. Didn't read the warning on the label.
So do not go into Parisian catacombs if you are allergic to Parisian catacombs. Well, face monster in the wall suddenly jumps out. Big old jump scare. And then it just tears George's neck off.
Yeah.
But he's not dead. He's just bleeding a lot.
He's been bleeding a lot.
And she tries the stone.
She tried that. Wingardium Leviosa. No, is that the right one?
Sure. Something to that effect.
Something.
Then he tells her
at this point.
He like, recites something
we're below. Oh, it's like, yeah, the whole thing of, I don't even know. Again, they speak through it so fast.
They really did. There's something with the phrase vitriol.
Yeah.
Maybe people can explain it. I kind of don't care. It just, the point is, there was some phrase, it has to do with alchemical, it has to do with chemistry.
Yeah.
It has to do with alchemy. A phrase about rectification.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, you have to rectify the stone. What that means is there's a false stone that you have to return to see the true stone. So she's like, I have to go back to the stone room now. Zed, can you watch my friend? Be back in a jiff.
And she just takes the fuck off.
Zed's like, wait.
And she does this haunted house escape room backwards.
She does a speed run. Mario speed run.
She does a speed run of Resident Evil with only the knife. And I was like, and she's like pushing stone monsters out of the way. Fuck the Dukes of Hell, climbing up ropes.
When she punches, she clocks the Duke of Hell. I laughed so hard, and she does it on the way back too. It's like,
I know, right?
Bam. It's so funny.
It is. It's like watching a speed run of Resident Evil.
It is
done by some teenager in Japan. Using only the knife.
Yeah,
but it also begs the question. What?
That's a really good question.
Did you just leave hell and then re-enter? What? Huh? Apparently, it's not a one-way exit.
No, you can go back.
You can go home again.
You
Look
can.
homeward, angel.
She, on this path up there, she runs into a blood pool monster that pulls her under into a pool of blood, and then she has to crawl back out.
Who doesn't love being soaked in blood? It just it just looks better in the trailers.
Yeah.
You know?
That really was a moment where, like, we need a real creepy scene, and it's a little goofy. But the real thing is she sees the hanged man again, and she pulls he's hooded.
Right. She
pulls the mask off, and I'm like, oh, here's her dad, but it's not her dad. It's her own face going blah, at her.
Literally going, blah, blah. It's you. But she says, I'm sorry to her father.
She does, well, on the way back, because first she gets back to the stone room.
Yeah.
She's like, okay, I've returned the stone. Now what?
Put the stone back in the wall.
She realizes that the center of it is kind of a round shaped center of this mural. And she starts staring at it, and she can see her own reflection. As above, so below, as from without, as within, as that I can imagine is within me.
The friends we made along the way.
The stone is the friends we met along the way. It is
the power is within you. All you had to do was click your heels together, and you could have gone home at any time.
100,000% is what's happening here. So
you could have left Oz whenever you wanted, Dorothy. What? Why didn't you tell me that in the first reel?
So on the way back, she sees
now she's magic as fuck.
Yeah, she's super magic, and she sees the hanged man, and she just walks up very calmly, hugs it, and says, I'm sorry, Dad, that I didn't pick up the phone that night you called me. Gotta go.
And then he fades into just poof.
Poof. Oh, that's all we had to do.
Just a little quick therapy session.
I'm going to try that with all of my regrets. I will just say them out loud, and then I won't feel them anymore.
I think isn't that what therapy is?
I think so. You just say the things that bother you out loud, and then you don't feel bad about them.
And you never have to feel anything ever again about them.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes my mom is really difficult, and I said that out loud, and now she's not anymore. My mom is not difficult. I just meant that as... She kind of is. Ellen Flood, if you're listening, give me a call. I need to talk to you.
Oh, no.
I'm just kidding.
You've been called to the principal's office.
That's right. So she gets back to George. She heals him with a kiss.
She lays hands on him.
If I'm Zed at this point, I'm just like, I think I have like a twisted ankle, whatever, like
your bloody nose.
Yeah, something like we're all fucked up. Can you just do a whole healing round? Like put your hands.
I know he actually had like a bloody nose.
Yeah, I was like, can you just put your finger like right here on the bridge of my nose? Like this is.
Can I get some of that philosopher's stone?
Yep.
Up in here. I also have this mole on my back that I need to get checked out. Could you just loofah that with the philosopher's stone for me?
It's not going away with the philosopher's stone, so I think it's not cancerous.
It's probably syphilis.
Yeah. Does the philosopher's stone only heal like severe injuries? Like because what about like a recurring condition like allergies?
Oh my God. Can you imagine? With that, you didn't have to snort it. Can you imagine? You're like doing pure uncut lines of philosopher's stone. That's what I'd be doing in those caves.
So good.
But that's my story.
So they keep going down and down and down, and they find this last thing where it's just a long, very narrow cylindrical tunnel that they drop, like they set a little piece of paper on fire and drop it to light the way, and it looks infinite.
200 feet, 300 feet, 400, who knows?
And she's like, we gotta jump.
Do we?
It's like, absolutely we don't.
She's like, no, only the penitent man may pass.
That's totally it. Rectify yourself.
And she's like, we gotta all do it together.
Isn't that
and they kind of have
lyric?
A moment where they say their I wish statement.
Rectify my love.
The Madonna song is playing. It's song number 2 in the song cycle. It's the where are we song. It's the what I want song.
Mm-hmm.
And George is like, I wish I had saved my brother. Scarlett says, I wish I had been there for my dad. And Zed says, I have a kid that I don't acknowledge. And they go,
whoa.
Well, that's fucking weird. But okay, here we go. They hold hands. Click their heels together 3 times.
Uh-huh.
And legit, it is like full on Willy Wonka. Like you just see bodies tumbling in space and these head cameras. It's a little bit the Willy Wonka going through the tunnel.
Yep.
It's also a little bit more high energy in Labyrinth when like she's going through like the tunnel full of hands that are slowing her down. But no hands.
Right. And they somehow survive this fall, thump to the ground at the bottom. And they find a manhole cover.
On the ground.
They're on the ground. And they're trying to lift it and it's not working, but she leans on it for a second and it kind of moves. And they're like, wait, this is a fun effect. It's such
I love it.
Goofy
lo-fi,
ending, but it's
so low-fi.
Such a cool effect. Yeah.
And listen, having the disorienting, the part about spelunking that is the hardest is disorientation.
Yeah.
I mean, also water, food, and light. And
claustrophobia, tight spaces,
all that other stuff. But
collapses.
It is like there are times when like you really have troubles when you go into new chambers. Which way is up? Which way is down? You've been up and like it's so I don't know, cool MC Escher kind of ending.
Totally.
Here.
And so they have to push down and move it to the side because on the other side of this manhole cover, the world is the other direction. Yeah. And they do. And they I love this because they put the camera up onto the street first. And so, but the camera is upside down the way they set it. So they're coming out of the hole. The sky is the bottom of your screen and the hole is the top. It's so cool. And they come in feet first into the world, which I think is really cool too, because they are going to be climbing into that feet first.
Yeah.
Because they're like, wait, gravity shifts the moment I cross this line. It's
that
cool.
Must feel awful weird.
Yeah.
And look, here we're on the Seine and there's Notre Dame in the background.
And they all hug, and Zed's like,
Zed says nothing and just walks the fuck away.
He's like,
I'm gonna go hug my kid.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to that club. I need a drink.
I will never speak to any of you again.
No, absolutely not. We do not share cell phone numbers. Like, text me next time you're in Paris.
No group texts. No. You killed two of my friends.
Yeah.
To walk out with no treasure, no philosopher's stone.
No. Yeah, he didn't even get he got nothing. He didn't even slip a gold bar into his fanny pack or nothing. So then there's an ending, like an epilogue, wherein Scarlett is back on the interview that we saw at the beginning. So we presume this is taking place from earlier with Benji. And she's like, I have never been seeking treasure, only the truth. Okay. I didn't feel like I needed that as the ending.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, all right.
So
thumbs up. So
you won?
Yeah. Good job. So anyways,
hope you don't get convicted of manslaughter.
For real.
Because I was like, what happened to that dude's van? What happens when Suxi's boyfriend comes calling or girlfriend?
Well, also Zed is still alive. The police are gonna find Papillon's van.
Yeah.
They're probably gonna know that these people probably been arrested before. They probably know Zed if they have a file on Papillon, which you get the sense that they probably do. That's not surprising. Papillon's gonna be like, okay, well, it was this like professor from University of London and this other dude who knows Aramaic. So yeah, go check them out.
Not to mention all of the tunnels that completely collapsed, which I'm sure, as above, so below. If those tunnels are collapsing down below, what is going on upstairs?
Yeah.
There's like just some Parisian French woman sitting there combing her hair, and all of a sudden her house just fucking falls into the floor by 20 feet.
For real. Scarlett, you are very, very talented, but very, very selfish. Should we rate this movie?
Yes, let's.
All right, so we'll start with approachability. If you're horror squeamish, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'll let you know like how approachable this is. 1 being, don't go near it if you are horror movie averse, and 10 being, you're going to be fine. It'll be great. I would give as above, so below, like 4, 3, let's say 3 chanting cults out of 10, right? Would you go
Yeah,
lower,
it's
higher?
no, I mean it's like it evokes claustrophobia.
I think that's the biggest thing is
Like in a way, like
yeah,
this, The Descent on par. And
yeah,
one is a very like this is docu style, the other one's film style.
yeah.
But this is like it you feel like you are stuck and you can't get out.
It's actually way more visceral on the claustrophobia without with and also having way less viscera in it
Yeah.
than
Yes.
the
Yeah.
Descent. You know what? I'm gonna make it a 2. You're right, because the claustrophobia scenes really got to me. Here's the thing. That's what makes it primarily scary. Also, close second to creepy faces and jump scares. Um,
Self-harm. I mean,
yeah, content warning about self-harm. There is a suicide at the heart of the story. That there is obviously things of like people dealing with some pretty deep family tragedy stuff, but
yeah.
I would say ultimately like the blood is not so much. It's more just
Yeah.
the haunted house thrill ride. It is
The
just
creep
taking,
factor.
yeah, it's taking a it's basically giving National Treasure like a creepy horror makeover kind of thing. I think it's a
Escape
really
room.
fun movie. It's yeah, it's an adventure story and like DaVinci Code, Indiana Jones, whatever. But yeah, content warning on that claustrophobia because that got to me real fucking hard. So yeah, let's say 2 out of 10 chanting cults. What do you say, Cecil, as a horror film?
As a horror film, this definitely is a lot of fun. It's definitely a thrill ride. Maybe some of the plot and character you just don't just there's some moments where they draw some conclusions. I was like, huh? What? You're gonna crawl through 50 feet of bones? So
Okay.
for that, it's pretty scary. It's a fun thrill ride. If you like fast-paced, action-oriented movies, you'll probably enjoy this.
Yeah. Did you give a number on that one?
Oh, I did not. Let's say 6 out of 10 DaVinci Codes.
Great. Well, let's figure out what we will watch next. You have a scare die, I have a style die. We'll roll those up. See what movie matches those 2 things that we roll. Cecil, on your scare die, if you roll a 1, that's a wild card. Whatever scare we want. If you roll a 2, vampire. 3, a mythological scare. 4, a sadist. 5, when animals attack. Or 6, cursed. Something cursed.
That's a 3.
Mythological scare. Okay, we're gonna match up your mythological scare with whatever style that I roll. If we roll a 1, our mythological scare movie has to be a giallo style film. If it's a 2, a splatter film. 3, something from the 1970s. 4, something from the last 5 years. 5, a rural horror film. Or 6, something just straight up, what the fuck did I just watch? Something wacky, wild, bonkers, whatever. Let's see what I got. I got a 1 mythological giallo.
Okay.
All right. We're going to
We got
stretch.
2.
We're, yeah. Yeah, we
Listen,
have 2.
I love this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We would not explore these territories if the randomness did not lead us into these random ass corners.
Yeah, let's figure out what's in these random ass corners here. Well, we have, I think the biggest one is Inferno. Dario Argento's Inferno.
Yes.
This is his second trilogy, his witch trilogy thing, following Suspiria. Yeah, I think Inferno's the way to go in that way. Another one is you wrote Mother of Tears,
which is the third in the series. He made it much later in life.
That's right.
It's not the best movie, but I did go to the premiere in New York, and I think I got to see Daria Nicolodi at the premiere, so it holds a place in my heart.
Okay, that's interesting. All right, so that's a good one. Let's check with our Letterboxd users, our people who follow us on Letterboxd. We put all of the possibilities up that we could roll any given week, and so people will come in and chime in with some ideas there. So Ganymede's Cup gives us, everyone's like, this is really hard. Ganymede's Cup
Yeah.
gives us the Spider Labyrinth, but then comes back and is like, it's not streaming, sadly.
Yeah.
There is,
but I do like Ganymede's Cup also gives us 1989's The Church.
Okay.
Michele Soave, produced by Dario Argento. So it's like all the usual suspects of a giallo.
Yeah.
Definitely mythological. Ganymede's Cup said, friends don't let friends run. Friends don't let friends turn into rapey goat demons.
This is medieval Europe. Crusading knights massacre a village full of suspected devil worshippers and build a large Gothic church above the cursed remains.
What could go wrong?
Sounds
Airbnb
like a good plan.
that shit.
Brave Crab gives us a wounded fawn. Okay, so this is going more giallo style because this is from
2022.
Wounded Fawn, so a very contemporary movie. Got some spooky looking artwork here. Local museum curator who is dipping her toe back into the dating pool is targeted by a charming serial killer. I think Brave Crab says like the murder mystery aspect of giallo with Greco-Roman mystery or mythology.
Cool.
Yeah. You heard of Enigma? Weaponized Toaster gives us Enigma from 1987.
I feel like I've seen this. The spirit of a comatose teen girl possesses the body of a newcomer to her girls' boarding school to enact bloody revenge against the elitist lingerie-clad co-eds responsible for her condition. Very Suspiria. Oh, and also the Suspiria remake would work here as well, says Weaponized Toaster.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So again, Mother of Tears, Mother of Sighs.
Wait,
mythology, still the giallo of people are dying left, right, and center. Who's doing it?
Cecil, right now I'm going to use, since we're on Zoom, let's pull back the curtain a little bit. I'm going to check the chat, and I'm going to send you a link to the Just Watch page for Enigma by Lucio Fulci, and I want you to see the poster art. And tell me this isn't our front runner right now.
God, that is so dope.
Okay. Okay, we got one more from Corvidae, which is Black Sabbath, 1963. They say, I'm not sure it fully counts as giallo, but I think a lot of the elements of Bava's work came to define that. I mean, it is Mario Bava, right? Like, this would have been like, maybe not giallo. None of these are really super giallo.
Yeah,
they're more.
Well, this one, okay, let's see. I've seen this one. This is an anthology with Boris Karloff. There is definitely a psycho killer. One in there. And then the Boris Karloff story, if I remember correct, is like kind of ghouls, corpse eatery, vampire-y kind of mythology.
Okay, interesting. Oh, interesting. That's a good one, Corvidae. Thank you. Okay, we have some good ones. I mean, Inferno is a really solid one because we did Suspiria a couple years back.
Sure.
The original. The new Suspiria might be kind of fun too.
Yeah.
I mean, I really have loved our ventures into Lucio Fulci between The Beyond.
I know.
And Zombie 2.
I think I'm kind of taken by Enigma.
It looks really
Although
dope.
Inferno is like, I haven't seen Inferno in forever, and it's bonkers.
And Black Sabbath is Bava, and Bava is
old school.
A lot of people consider the grandfather of the giallo film, right?
Yeah.
So, or the father of the giallo film. So there's that. I think we're gonna get a little bit more. Yeah, I don't know. It's anthology. It maybe hits the giallo a little bit more on the nose if he's got a murder mystery thing. Yeah, deceased medium, threatening phone calls, and vampiric monsters are 3 storylines in Black Sabbath.
Yeah. Oof.
Okay. I'm really I don't know if we're too taken by this poster, but I really think we have to do Enigma, right?
I think it'll be fun.
It looks really fun. It's also on Shudder. Bet a lot of our listeners are on Shudder, so that seems pretty accessible.
And I feel mythology will figure it out. But I think if we've had giallo on the dice for a decade, so if we're going to do it, we should do it right.
Yes. So let's get. Unfortunately, we didn't get a true slasher killer.
Yeah, like sadist with giallo. Yeah. But I think This has that sort of spirity, witchy, ghosty layer on top of the giallo. I think Enigma will be fun.
Yeah, I think it will too. So let's do Enigma. Let's get back to the 80s, Cecil. I'm so excited.
Let's go.
Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Cecil, for talking with me. And if you have thoughts on As Above, So Below, or ideas for other movies that would be good, mythological scare meets giallo, let us know on Instagram at randomhorror9 or over at Patreon, where we have public discussion threads for every episode, and you do not have to be a paying member to participate in those. So watch 1987's Enigma. That's an AENIGMA. Watch that with us this week and come on back next Tuesday for a new episode. Have a restful night with no ghost children in your bone hallway or nothing. Boo.
Boo.
But that sounded weird. Bone hallway. Made of bones. Gross. You're sick. Boo.